This is the Beyond the Prophy podcast, the podcast that empowers you and inspires you to seek career excellence while pursuing your passion. And I'm your host, Jasmine Haley. Welcome to the Beyond the Prophy podcast. I have a very special guest. My guest today is Dani Dougan, and I'm very excited to actually have her a part of this podcast because I met her at the Beyond the Beltway's inaugural CE event, and I guess it was it August? I think it was August, I believe. And immediately, she actually arrived late, by the way, but so it was not easy to miss her. But what I appreciated about her was the contribution that she gave to the event and the discussion. And then in addition to that, I got a chance to hear about her amazing journey in dental hygiene. So I had to bring her on the show to share her journey, to share her story, hopefully empower and inspire you all. And then perhaps you can utilize her or request to speak to her at another time because I think you'll learn a lot from her in the short period that we're going to talk, but also there's so much more. I'm sure we're only going to get to the tip of the iceberg. So welcome, Dani, to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited, and you know, it's so funny because I did not mean to be late that night, but it was just one of those days where, you know, the last patient shows up when they feel like it and you still have to see them. And every hygienist that's listening to this will definitely understand.
Absolutely.
Oh, me.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed having you a part of that discussion. You definitely brought some life to it. You know, sometimes it's not easy when you're eating all that good food and you're having some great drinks. You know, you kind of get relaxed and ease in, but I loved having, you know, you a part of that discussion. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where did you go to dental hygiene school and what kind of led you into this career?
Well, I was a dental assistant, expanded functions for a very long time. And I finally just, you know, you kind of have that conversation with you and God, and it's like, okay, Dani, you got two choices. You can either go back to school or you can remain a dental assistant. And remaining a dental assistant is not a bad choice. It just means you've given up the right to whine about what you can't do. And so I went back to school. And I worked full-time as a dental assistant, and I did my prerequisites at Montgomery College. And then I applied to Howard University, and I graduated there. And then when I finished, I knew that I wanted my bachelor's, and Howard's program was not a baccalaureate program. And so I went straight into degree completion at University of Maryland, Baltimore. And finished my bachelor's in dental hygiene. And so that's kind of how I came to get into hygiene, because it was, for me, it was the natural progression. I was really tired of not having my professional judgment respected just because I didn't have a piece of paper. And so you have to kind of get to a place where you get uncomfortable being comfortable.
Absolutely. I tell you, you know, I started this because I was doing the Mom Hygienist podcast, and of course we talk about motherhood and kind of balancing everything, which is not a true balance, really, honestly. And you know, you do the best that you can, and I found that my passion for career satisfaction and promoting that career excellence and finding that that, I guess, comfortable, not a true comfortable level, but being comfortable with being the best version of yourself,
Yes.
didn't really fit into Momgenist. And so that's
Mhm.
why this was created, because 2 years ago, I was just completely miserable in my professional life.
Wow.
And I was happy personally. I have an amazing husband. I have two beautiful kids. All of
Mhm.
that was great. But my professional life was just a mess. The fact that I was full of anxiety, I I was constantly complaining and never really looking towards myself as,
Right.
okay, there's something here that I need to fix. And so I
Uh-huh.
think having this discussion and seeing how you kind of took charge of, okay, this is what the change that I need. This is the way I'm going to elevate myself, and I'm a firm believer and a firm advocate of that. And that's, getting an education, whether that be in CE classes and elevating yourself that way, or formally going to a higher education and getting a degree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you have to do something. I mean, I I just knew that I couldn't stay there. I
Mhm.
couldn't stay in that same place.
Mhm.
Even if I failed, I still would have been okay because
Mhm.
I tried.
Mhm.
And so, there's my journey. I mean, it took me 10 years to do it,
Mhm.
but that's okay. As I say to people many times when, they say, wow, that's such a long time. I'm like, 10 years is going to pass anyway. How are you going to spend your 10 years? Because I can tell you every step I took for those 10 years, okay? I can tell you every hill, every valley, every mountaintop that happened in that 10 years. I can tell you right now about it, okay? Yes, ma'am. and I, unlike you, I didn't have children,
Mhm.
but I was a non-traditional student.
Mhm.
I was, when I took my first prerequisite to go to hygiene school, I was 37 years old.
Wow.
hmm and,
Wow.
and so I I knew that I had to do something. And
Yes.
I say that because somebody that's 35, 36, 37, who's being told that they can't grow anymore, I'm a living witness that you can.
Mm.
You can.
That is powerful. Because you know what, the demographic of dental hygiene students are changing completely, just completely.
hmm
Now, when I went to school, that was just 10 years ago that I graduated from dental hygiene school.
hmm
Most of them were around the age that I was, which was what, like 21, 22 years
hmm
old, or what have you.
hmm
Um, there was one lady that was actually in her 40s that had grown children,
hmm
but everyone else was around there. But then, fast forward to me being an educator and teaching full time. Well, many of them
Uh-huh.
with that had children, or this may have been their second or third transition in their career, and they
hmm
were much older than I was. And
hmm
so it's definitely changing, and I think it's important for professionals, especially the educators, to see, when we meet individuals who may be in that walk of life where they're, taking their time, but small steps are still steps
That's right.
towards something,
That's
to
right.
be that, I guess, that support for them, to be, and to let them know that it is possible. And I really love that you mentioned that.
hmm
And that's something that definitely needs to be showcased more,
Yeah, because it is doable. I won't tell you that at 37 you don't have to kind of modify how you study and those types of things because you do.
Mhm.
Simply because you are used to learning differently.
Mhm.
But having said that, if you want it bad enough, you'll get it. I promise you, you will. And it really, I too, like you, am an educator.
Mhm.
And so I have a very hard time um, allowing students to tell me about what they can't do.
You one of those teachers.
Yeah, I'm that one. Okay. I am that one. All right. Yes, ma'am. Unashamedly, I'm that one.
I love it.
But we have to, because if I'm really the educator that I want to be, then hopefully I make my students just a little bit uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Because the moment I do that, then I know you're growing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know that you're growing, because it's not about me. It's really not. When we're teaching, whether we're educators or we're clinicians, it's not about us. Mm-hmm. It's about the people we serve.
Absolutely.
It's about the people we serve.
Man, I was just re-listening to an episode that I'm going to be putting out this week, and we were talking about being a servant leader.
Mm-hmm.
And, you need that type of thinking in order to be in a positive mindset and a growth mindset. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes when we take a look at our current circumstances, or there's going to be negativity around the world anyway. Just you can open up your front door and look at it. You're never going to be
okay.
fully around positivity at all times, but that when you are in a position to care or to assist others who may not have as much, it reframes your mind and your thinking. And I really love the fact that you point that out. But there's a caveat to that, though, because sometimes as women we tend to care so much about others that we forget to give ourselves self-care.
Very true. Very true. But I will tell you, that 10-year journey, I literally gave up just about everything because I knew I was going to have to in order to accomplish it. I took one really, really nice vacation when I was about halfway through my prerequisites, because I knew that I wasn't going to get an opportunity to take another vacation for quite a number of years. And so when I finished my journey, it was, right up there with passing board exams. Mm-hmm. Was getting my life back. Okay? It was right up there. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I'm a real advocate of taking care of yourself, because I know what it feels like to not be able to do that. And it does wear you out, and you can't be as effective because you're so worn out and you're pulled in so many different directions. And I think one of the things that I had to learn, and I still have to hold myself back, is you have to be able to say no. It's all right to say no sometimes, because we can't do everything.
Absolutely.
And the moment you do that, then you can achieve balance. You really can achieve it, because you've allowed yourself the right to say no. Or even to say, let me think about it. But don't just immediately say yes. And that's just my nature, to immediately say yes. And I really and truly had to learn, teach myself to say no. Or at the very least say, let me think about it and let me get back to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
That's a hard one for me too, setting those
Yeah.
boundaries. But I tell you, when you start feeling like that overwhelmed feeling, or just like,
Mm-hmm.
ugh, why did I tell you, that will definitely make you think twice the
You
next
better
time.
know it.
I mean, because there's plenty of times where I've told myself, I will never do this again. Like, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I doing it to myself?
I know.
I listened to a really good podcast with Oprah Winfrey that talked about that.
Really?
Yes. And she asked herself several questions prior to responding to someone, because she found herself saying yes to everything, because she
Mm-hmm.
wanted people to like her. And she said
Mm-hmm.
that was the biggest lesson in her life,
Yep. Yep.
is getting over that hurdle. So,
Yeah.
what does this person mean to me? By doing this to them, how would this make me feel? By doing this for them, how would it make me feel? Those are the types of questions that she now asks herself.
Mm.
And she's no longer concerned anymore about, will they like me? Will they say that I give back, enough? What would they
Okay.
say about Oprah? So those are some things, like, I'm not Oprah, but I've got to protect my time, because I have
Yeah.
2 little kids and I have a family, and I
That's
am
right.
doing a lot of ambitious projects right
Yeah.
now. So I appreciate that. But I want to go back to the fact that you mentioned not staying in your comfort zone, because what I found when you were telling me about what you've done, and I listened to you speak about something that I felt was so unique, I was like, wow, I want to get to know this woman, because I'm like, she is fierce. And the reason why it that word popped into my head was because you told me that you worked in Jamaica,
Mhm.
and you were a program director of a dental hygiene and dental assisting program down there. So,
Mhm.
how did that come about, and how did you find the courage and I guess, the bravery too, to really get out of your comfort zone and seek career excellence outside of the United States?
You know, it's it, it's a very odd kind of journey, but I will tell you, I wasn't looking for it. It found me, and that's the absolute truth. It found me. I was working as a full time instructor at Howard University in the same program that I graduated from, and I was happy, and I had been in my house maybe 2 years. All of the things that I had worked for were kind of coming to fruition for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so this really literally dropped in my lap, and a colleague said, I got an email about a dental hygiene program in Jamaica. I said, really? I said, just shoot me the email. And that's how it happened. And I read it, and I said, that sounds interesting. And so I said, I have nothing to lose by applying. And I applied for an instructor position, not the program chair position. I did not apply for that position.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And exactly. That wasn't even on my radar. I was just thinking, I'll just take a leave of absence, and I'll go teach for a year, and it'll be a great experience, and I'll come back home, and all will be well. Well, that wasn't really how that went down. And so I filled out the application, and they sent me an email, and the woman who actually wrote the program set up a Skype interview, very much like we're talking right now, and asked me about my background. And of course, I always say that because I loved being a dental assistant, I did. And I always put that out there, and how that was my foundation for hygiene school. And so she goes, okay, blah, blah, blah. And she said, well, I'd like to give you a call back in about a week. And I said, sure. And she called me back and she said, I wanted to ask you something. And I said, certainly. And she said, I'd like to know if you would consider being the program chair. And exactly. I can remember sitting in my car and I'm listening to her and I am totally overwhelmed. And the first thing I'm thinking in my head is, Dani, don't say yes. Even though you probably are going to, don't say it right this moment.
And I told her, it takes a whole lot of willpower.
Girl, okay. I didn't know I had that much willpower, frankly. And so I asked her if I could think about it. And she said, absolutely. And I said, thank you so much for considering me. And I hung the phone up. And I cried. And I said, Lord, do you really mean that for me? And I went to my mom and I cried. And I truly prayed about it fervently. And after about a week, and I spoke with some people that I trust, and I said yes, that I would go. One of the things that made me say yes is I kept thinking, I think to have to ask yourself, what if, is the worst question in the world to ever have to ask yourself. Even if I fail, it's all right. Because I'll never have to ask myself, what if I had gone? What if? And then the other question becomes, what if I succeed? What about that? And so I said yes. And I went, and I mean, people thought I was crazy because, again, I had been in my house maybe 2 years. It was a house that I wanted, you know, and I had a great job. I was doing what I love. And everybody was like, well, what are you going to do with your house? I said, I'm not selling it. I can tell you that. Okay. And, you know, I packed up my house and gave a few things away. And
the rest is history.
The rest is pretty much history. I'm grateful that I have the kind of family that I have. I'm grateful that I have a wonderful man in my life who is not afraid of the person that I am becoming. Even though I got a few gray hairs, I'm still becoming somebody. And I hope that I am until I leave this world, frankly. And I have a wonderful, wonderful, amazing church family. And so they wrapped their arms around me and sent me on my way. And my plan was to stay for 3 years. And I ended up staying for approximately 4 months. And it was probably the hardest, most amazing 4 months of my life.
Wow.
It's certainly right up there. It was stressful. It was so much at once. But I did what I thought was the best that I could do in the time frame that I was there. I left because it was a partnership between a private company out of Canada and the University of Technology in Kingston. And the problem was not the university. It was the private company who was responsible for paying us. And when I say us, I mean all of the international faculty, not just me. And you get one time to play with my cash. I don't send emails. I don't call your mama. I don't send memos. You, girl, okay? And for as much as I can run my mouth, I can hold my card so close to my vest, girlfriend, you don't even know I have cards in my hand. Okay? Okay.
Oh my gosh! So you were just in Jamaica, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
What were you there
I
for?
was. And I was there, girl. This is how God does stuff. It has been 7 years since I left. And I got a call back in the spring. One of my former students, who is now my colleague over there, is on the board who was putting together the oral health symposium and invited me to come back as a speaker. And I did 4 CE courses at the oral health symposium. And so that's why I was there.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So you went from dental assisting, expanded function. You were a director of a dental assisting program. You were um, faculty at Howard University. You then worked in administrative level at an international dental hygiene program. You're back now in the States. You're adjunct at Fortis, and you are a speaker. So let the listeners know, like, what kind of drove you in that route of speaking and being willing to share your message now to professional hygienists.
Because I've always felt like it can't be just about me.
Mhm.
That's probably why I'm in healthcare.
Mhm.
All right, and I firmly believe that I'm very comfortable in that setting. It started out with me just wanting to teach, and then how you have that secret place in your heart.
Mhm.
And in my secret place, I always wanted to be a motivational speaker, but I never quite knew quite how to do it. And so I just continued to teach. And I've even had students who have said to me, Miss Dougan, you really should be a motivational speaker. And I just smile. And, it just was one of those things that kind of evolved.
Mhm. Mhm.
And this most recent trip to Jamaica, the last CE course that I taught allowed me to really know that I actually can do this.
Mhm. Mhm.
It was it was basically about team building within the dental practice. And I talk about how dentistry is probably one of the most team oriented professions out there,
Mhm.
and how each member is the most important part of the equation is the patient. It is not Dr. Wonderful. It's not Hygienist Wonderful. It's not Assistant Wonderful. It's not Office Manager Wonderful. It's the patient. And that each member brings something important to the table, and we each need the other one to be successful.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then at the very end, I told a little bit of my story, just enough for it to make sense.
Great.
Um, and it was the first time when I really felt like, you know what, I can actually do this. And so it was quite the trip. It was amazing in that, one, that I was invited back, which
Mhm.
confirmed that the university understood why I left, and they
Mhm.
understood the way that I left,
Yeah.
and that they welcomed me back with open arms, and I mean treated me truly like a rock star. And I mean, it was like every time I turned, I was hugging this one, and somebody else was tapping me on the shoulder, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And so, I'm starting a journey again, another journey.
I think
And
it's so inspirational. It's so inspirational to see, and you're pursuing your master's degree right now,
yes, I am.
and
Yes,
I
I
think that's
am.
wonderful.
Mhm.
I think it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. I definitely. you got to keep growing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You have to keep growing. And if you're not, then why are you still on the planet?
Absolutely.
I got to keep doing stuff. So, I'm temping clinically because I gotta pay my mortgage.
Need shelter.
What you think? But I'm also teaching, and I'm also a CDCA examiner for dental hygiene as well.
Oh wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, that happened this year. I'm so grateful, and that's also something that I've always wanted to do, and it finally came through this year. So
that's a big deal. That is so
yeah,
cool.
yeah, it is cool. I was pretty excited about it. I did my first exam back in the spring, and it was so cool. And it was so interesting being on the other side of it. And it really helped me to appreciate the anonymity that they need to keep.
Exactly.
And it was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to doing that for a nice long time. So see, that's something you can do till you're old and gray.
Right.
Exactly. I can travel and go and do a little something, and then I can come on back home.
Yep. I have I heard briefly, just little tidbits from it from a previous coworker of mine who is with the Maryland State Board, and she's done that. So it's pretty neat that what goes behind the scenes. Of course, as faculty, you kind of see some of the examiners, but you're not really allowed to go down into that area when the exam is going on.
Exactly.
So I definitely have seen some of them, like, when they're leaving, as they're leaving. But it's something else. It's very incredible. So, all right, these are my last two questions for you.
Okay.
Here's my second to last question is, what is the best career advice you've ever been given?
Wow. I will tell you the best career advice was ever given was given to me by my mom. And I was quite a little girl. And she looked at me, I guess I was probably like 8. So my brothers would have been like 10 and probably 11 and 12. And she used to say all the time, you spend too much time preparing for and at work to be unhappy. Pick something that you like. She said it early and often. And I really took it to heart. And I love what I do so much. I cannot imagine being in any other profession other than this one.
That's some good advice right there. That is some good advice. All right.
Girl, and she said that thing early and often.
For that to make an impression on you at such a young age, that is powerful. So, what is the last book you've read?
Girl, probably a textbook. It's so sad. It's so sad, but it's so true. Okay.
Oh, we gotta fix
it was
that.
Nothing that anybody wants to read. All right. That is the one thing I have to say that I have got to start doing more of, because I'm just. It's always a textbook. I hate to say that.
Yeah. I use Audible because I just cannot read with a hard copy book like I used to. I have to be on the go. So the book that I'm currently reading now is High Performance Habits, written by Brendon Burchard. He talks about some common habits and themes for exceptional leaders. And what was interesting was he actually had a section in there, which is this is all the stuff that we already know. He's writing exactly what we already know. But he talked about the true success and how it's aligned with being well physically, spiritually, and mentally. And he talked about the physical aspect. And he was stating, which is what I'm struggling with right now in grad school, is, you cannot be truly successful if you are not healthy.
Amen.
And
No.
it was just like, it's like I knew this already, but like hearing that was like almost an epiphany.
Yep. Because that is the absolute truth.
And I'm like, wow. The way he broke it down, he was just talking about like getting enough sleep, you know, not putting junk in our body, exercising 30 minutes out of the day. And I've been focusing mostly on mental, just creating my mindset that I need for growth. And I just was like, whoa, you know, this is, I know I need to get it together, but it's also ultimately so that I can be truly successful in all aspects of my life. Right. So that's what I'm currently reading right now. But get hooked up with Audible. And I
promise I will, because I know
you'll be able to join in.
Yeah, because I know I needed to give a better answer than that, but that is the absolute truthful answer. Okay, I could have named the book that I read about 7 years ago, but I mean, you know, you. And one thing I have to say to you before we end this is your ears really should have been burning while I was in Jamaica, because I talked about you at least 3 or 4 times.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, girl, because you need to go to Jamaica with me. They've already invited me back for next year, so you have to go with me.
What? I've never been to Jamaica. Never been.
What? Mm-mm. Girl, okay, well, we'll talk, but you definitely need to be at the symposium next October.
That sounds good. Well,
and I'll email you the date.
Yes, do that. Now, if listeners want to get in contact with you, how can they reach you?
Well, they can email me, and my email is D like David, L, D like David, O, U, G like George, A, N like Nelly, 412 @gmail.com.
Awesome. So I will put that email address in our show notes. And so I just want to let everyone know, just a small amount of time I've been with Dani in person, she made an impact on me. And so certainly if you are looking for a speaker, if you're looking for someone to instill some motivation and inspire you, I definitely would reach out to her. I really do appreciate you being a part of this podcast and sharing a bit of your journey. I know it was kind of hard to talk about it in less than 40 minutes. But I definitely think that you've shed some pearls in this interview that I think will definitely make an impact. I literally felt like I needed to just stop, you know, as you were talking about the what-ifs. And so I really appreciate you joining this podcast, Dani. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited, and I'm hopeful that we'll get to do some things together, because I think that you are also a force. I knew it before I walked in that room, and I really had wanted to sign up for one of your CEs that you were doing in the summer in Baltimore. But at the time, a family member was making her transition, and it was just too much going on. So the night that I came, I was determined. I said, I don't care that I'm late. I'm still coming, because this chick has a blessing for me. I just felt it. And so I'm grateful, and I'm glad that we've connected, and we'll make sure to keep the connection. Thank you, my dear. I appreciate it.